Hello there. I am here today with Cayla Kussman, founder and CEO of Cayla Gray Fragrance. I am so pumped that she is here, honestly, a little selfishly, because we are working on a very special project.
Yeah, I'm so excited. First of all, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me. And yes, we're working on something super fun and special that, yeah, I can't wait to share with the world.
Yes, a new project that, you know, after creeping you out a little bit on social, your gorgeous brand. And then funny enough, I had one of your fragrances. I had one of the rolly sticks, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't put two and two together. And I'm like, this is the fragrance like that I love, that's so good for you, meaning it doesn't have all the crap in it. And there's so much to be said about what you've created, and just seeing the evolution. But I would love for you to just tell everyone who you are. Okay. How did you get started?
Yeah, I can totally jump into all that. So I'm Cayla Kussman. I'm the founder of Cayla Gray. We're a clean fragrance company, meaning non-toxic, hypoallergenic, no parabens or phthalates in any of our products. We're one of the very few fragrance companies that actually discloses all of our ingredients in the word fragrance. We want you to know what you're putting on your body. It's important for us that you know that. I have been in retail, for over 20 years. I was born and raised in Wisconsin. I landed my first job as an assistant buyer of fragrances and completely fell in love with the way that fragrances told a story and triggered memories for me. Yeah. I grew up running around in forests and streams and going fishing and looking for frogs and all of the things.
Minnesota,
exactly,
Wisconsin.
Midwest, exactly. And at my first job, I remember walking into the fragrance closet and picking up, this fragrance closet was a room full of perfumes, dozens and hundreds and thousands of these beautiful bottles of perfume. So I was totally in heaven. And I remember one day walking in and picking up a scent called Demeter tomato leaf. And smelling the scent, and it smelled like a ripe, juicy tomato, and literally brought me back to my mom's garden when I was growing up. Because we would leave the house in the morning and we'd be eating tomatoes and sugar snap peas and raspberries throughout the day as little snacks. And I just remember falling in love with the way that scent made memories tangible, and always knew I would do something. I would do something with fragrance. I just never knew exactly what.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was in corporate for 20 years, worked my way up the corporate ladder. My last position was for PetSmart headquarters. Actually, I was their senior director of sourcing and production. I stood up a domestic sourcing division for the company and loved it. I loved my job. I always knew there was something more though, but it was hard to walk away from steady paychecks and bonuses and all the things that you think are important. I thought the accolades and the recognition and all those things were super important. Yeah. But I moved to Arizona for PetSmart in 2010 and met my husband in 2014. We got married and then decided we wanted to try to have a family. And in 2017, we actually got pregnant. But I suffered from a ruptured ectopic pregnancy and almost lost my life that day. And then it happened again in 2018. And it was really after those two moments that everything just kind of went still for me. Did a lot of inner work, therapy, all the things that you do to kind of move through grief. And came out of it and knew that I needed to do something different with my life. And so started working on my dream company. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. And so started working on a clean fragrance company because I couldn't find beautiful fragrances when I found out I was pregnant that were okay for me to wear. So started working on my company and named the company Cayla Gray because that was going to be the name of our first baby, just to kind of honor the loss but put beautiful things out into the world. And we launched in 2020.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's a long-winded way of my backstory.
No, that is incredible. And thank you for sharing so openly and transparent. And I just love how you took something so painful and you made it a purpose. Yeah. And it's really touching. Yeah. And I know that you leaned in and went through tons of self-work. And it's in that period of after something traumatic happening, it's that window where it's you can either stay there forever or you can choose to just day by day, brick by brick, heal, deal, and it never goes away.
Yeah, it doesn't.
But you just grow stronger and your perspective changes. And so I want to, in that window, what was it like? Were you just like, I'm not going back to corporate, I'm going to do a new thing? How did that even start? Or was it always in the back of your mind, like, I would love to have my own company?
It was always at the back of my mind, but like I said before, I'm an Enneagram type 3, so I'm very driven, and I didn't realize how much accolades and recognition fed my ego so much until those ruptured ectopics happened, and it just like shook me out of like, what am I doing? Like, do I wake up every single day and am I super excited to go into my work? And like, it was fulfilling. I mean, I had a job that people would kill for. I worked so hard to get to, you know, at that level. But I woke up every day and I was just like, I would have the Sunday scaries and I'd be anxious. And like, there was just, I didn't love it. And I'm like, what am I doing? And things, like I said, after those 2 losses, things just went quiet, and almost the quiet allowed me to see things for what they really were.
Yeah.
And what they really were was like, I wasn't fulfilled by the things I was doing every single day. It was more ego driven than heart driven. I realized that there were so many moments within my day that I wasn't pausing and absorbing and looking at, because I was just going through the motions of like getting stuff done, the to-do list, like getting to that next level, getting that next promotion, getting that next raise, getting that next award, like whatever it was, that like I was missing all of the beautiful things in my life. I remember this one moment that was so poignant to me. We were at Thanksgiving with me and my family, and I remember there was like a big presentation that we needed to do like the following Monday after, and so that was like, my mind was all in that, and you know, and then everybody's, you know, rushing around to get everything ready and prepared for a certain time of the day so that everybody can sit down and eat this big meal, and as this was after the ectopics, I just kind of like stopped for a moment, and I was like, all right, I just need to like absorb what's going on around me. And like, I looked up and my 2 nephews were in the corner giggling so hard, like just the noise of them giggling and laughing so hard is something I totally would have missed had I just gone about like my days the way that they normally would go.
Right.
And so I was, after losing the babies and almost losing my life, everything just became so much clearer that those were the types of moments I should be chasing.
Yeah.
And not the recognition moments that I was chasing.
I can deeply relate.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like you just get so caught in it.
Yeah.
That you're like, okay, what do I need to do to succeed?
Yeah.
And if you have that personality type, I'm an 8.
Okay, yeah.
It's like if you just see the target and you just want to hit the target.
Yeah.
And that's all you're focused on.
Yeah.
And then it's like you miss all this life.
Yeah.
And it's like, what is all this for?
Yeah, exactly. Like you miss the moments in between. You miss the going through the process, going through the motions, and like honoring the moment you're in, because you're always chasing what's next. And that was what was so mind blowing to me, that I had no idea I was even doing it until everything just went quiet.
Yeah. You usually don't.
Yeah. Right.
So when was the day that you woke up and you're like, I want to have this luxury fragrance line?
It was February 2019. I don't know what it was. It was around my birthday. I think I was, well, actually I was turning 40, I think, that year. So that's probably exactly what it was. And I just remember waking up and being like, I had done the right steps to move through my grief. It's like you were saying earlier, it's still there. It's going to be with me forever. It just shifts and changes form and shape. But I needed to like physically do something to kind of put my energy into.
Totally.
And so I was like, I'm obsessed with fragrance. And so I did a ton of research, Googled it, found a bunch of perfumery classes, and literally immersed myself for the next 6 months in perfumery classes, and became so obsessed with it. There was no question on what my next step was. There was just absolutely no question. Yeah. And so literally filed for an LLC in 2019 and just got to work.
Oh my gosh. So, because I know everyone's thinking that, like, oh, I've got this thing I'm so into, but you have to be so into it that you're willing to do whatever it takes, be resourceful AF.
Yeah.
Go to the Google, you know, and just like get after it. And it's like, wow.
I was working on my business while still working full time for 2 years. I was managing and running, you know, $2 billion of business.
What?
While I was creating my own company on the side. Yeah. And so it was a lot, but like when people ask me, because I do coaching for small businesses, like to help them scale, when they ask like, how do I get started? just Google. Take 5 minutes a day.
Yeah.
Just start Googling the thing that you're excited or curious about. Start listening to podcasts. Go on walks in the morning. Like, just put it in somewhere in your day that causes you to stop and pause.
Right.
And that stop and pause will start to grow and grow and grow and grow as you continue to kind of dive in and learn about it. And if it doesn't keep growing, then maybe that's not the thing for you. Is kind of, you know, where we lead people. So I became obsessed. I had to do it. That's
so good.
Yeah.
And then, like, when you were home on the weekends, were you like building the company?
Yeah, both. I'm an early bird. I get up between like 4:30 and 5 every morning. And so, like, we would work on it in the morning, and then, you know, after work, I would work on it. I had a lot of overseas teammates, and so we would have like later calls. And so just, plugging in between meetings and things like that, and then weekends. And I would take a week or two off, like use my vacation time. And I was, you know, flying to LA, actually, flying to New Jersey, and just finding master perfumers that would allow me to, you know, pick their brain or you know, pay for some consulting time and spending time with them. So I was just like sliding it in every single where that I possibly could.
That's so brilliant.
Yeah.
The hunger,
the
drive.
I was hungry.
Oh, this is like music to my ears.
I love it.
Because everything is figure outable.
Yeah, it is. 100%.
But you have to have that gritty, like, get me in the room.
You have to be naturally curious.
Yeah. Like, ask, call, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And that's what you've done. Because I didn't realize it was only 2019.
Yeah.
I'm thinking this is like a 10-year-old company. This is so recent.
Yeah, we're in our third year.
3 years.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
And you've like, I just see like the growth, and you just had a rebrand.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. Yeah.
So what was the first scent? I want to talk about that.
The first scent was Petals, and it was so interesting because I have this thing that I do twice a year. I take alone trips by myself, and I've been doing it for a decade. My first alone trip was I went to La Jolla, just got like a super beautiful hotel room and just spent 3 days alone, like going inward, journaling, like taking walks, just like I find that there's so much noise around us in our day-to-days that we can't hear our voice, our inner voice so much. And there were times when I knew that like my gut instincts weren't as strong as they needed to be. And so I needed to quiet the things around me to kind of center myself. And so I've been doing it forever. And there's this scent in La Jolla. I think it's the mix of the sea and flowers. It's almost like clean laundry and jasmine.
Yes.
And so I needed to make that scent. I was like obsessed with it. I needed to make that scent. And so that was the first scent that we created, was Petals.
Oh my
to remind me and like always bring me back to those beautiful moments of my alone trips.
That
and it does
so
every time I wear it.
So then were you like, I'm going to post this on Instagram? Did you get a proper website? Like, how did that all flow?
Yeah, so I spent a lot of time researching how to build a brand, because I can build any company operationally, and I can scale you. Marketing, on the other hand, is not something that I'm good at.
And I'm the opposite.
Yeah, like marketing, I need all the help I can get. Scaling and operations, I got you.
Yeah.
And so just spent a ton of time like researching, going to networking events, like talking to other people that have done what I wanted to do, reaching out to people on LinkedIn, asking if they would possibly be my mentors. Like I was just, like you said, hungry. I was so naturally curious. And so I knew, you know, I'm type A, controlling. I needed to make sure I did everything in the right process. And so for me, it just logically made sense to get an Instagram account, build community, and like pent up demand before I actually released the first thing. And so I hired, she's a really good friend of mine now. Her name is Aisha. I hired her to help me with all the marketing and marketing side of things. And we decided to start an Instagram account in October. And the plan was to launch on Black Friday of 2020. And so we spent 2 months just like really developing this beautiful community. I would be networking and like hopping on calls and, you know, just talking to everybody who would possibly listen about Cayla Gray. To just build up momentum before we actually launched and anybody had anything to purchase. And so that was our launch strategy.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, it was fun.
So were you just like sharing your story, your mission?
At first, I was actually reluctant to tell my story. I didn't share my story. I don't think it was until December of 2020. And so we launched, it's not easy to sell fragrance online. Like you have to really paint a beautiful picture and tell a story for people to get interested. I think after 2020 happened, people are like learning what their scent notes that they love are.
You finally pay attention to that stuff.
Because you kind of had to figure it out during 2020, even part of 2021. You had to buy things online. You had to figure it out. And so I think people are I luckily launched in a time where people were more willing to try something a little bit different that they hadn't done before in terms of purchasing fragrance online. But yeah, I didn't tell my story until a few months later, because I almost didn't think my story mattered. Like, there was such a disconnect between fragrance and like my story. I thought that I didn't think it was necessary. And then I posted like a YouTube video on our website and on Instagram telling the backstory. And I was blown away by the amount of DMs, emails, messages of other women that have gone through infertility struggles that deeply connected to my brand and literally are some of my best customers to this day. I didn't think my story mattered, and your story matters. Your story matters so much, because there's a person behind the brand, and there's a reason that like you create the beautiful thing that you're working so hard for. So I learned that lesson pretty quickly on.
Major.
Yeah.
Major. And I really try to explain that to a lot of brands coming up, that they're selling a thing, a shoe, a this, a that, a jewelry. And I'm like, no, who are you?
Yes.
And they're like, wait, no one needs to know who I am. And I'm like, millennials and younger, they want to know like who's the founder of the company, what's the mission. It's a very big shift, but I'm so proud of you for putting that out there. Yeah.
It's scary to be vulnerable.
It is. But I believe that God rewards you for that.
Yeah.
And people really can connect to you on such a deeper level. And it's so awe-inspiring. Like, it really is, that it's like this woman like took this pain and decided to make something different of it. And it really is. I just applaud you for that.
Thanks,
yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, okay. So you start building the company. Like, what does it look like now today? Like, how many employees do you have?
Got about 6 employees now.
Okay.
Because we just opened the store, we added a couple for staff employees. But yeah, our business model really is, I tried to be 50% direct to consumer, 50% wholesale. Okay. Just to make sure that like your gross margins blend at the proper level.
Okay.
And then we just opened up our first brick and mortar store. It's kind of like my little incubator place that I can kind of test and learn different concepts, different new scents.
So cute.
Just a whole bunch of things, because I have such a bigger vision for Cayla Gray.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of, next steps for us is expanding into, different types of fragrance rituals that you can do for a perfect self-care routine.
Yeah. Talk to me about fragrance rituals. Like, do you love all your scents? Do they all have meaning? How important do you think this is holistically for somebody?
I think fragrance is such a huge piece of identity that a lot of people don't connect the dots with. Like, fragrance is the one sense, like scent is the one sense that actually has a direct connection to your olfactory nerve in your brain. And it can immediately recall memories that like have been locked away for decades. And it's such a beautiful, like, how many times have you like walked past somebody and like their scent reminds you of somebody else, and it like triggers something in you, and a lot of times you can't even put your finger on it.
Right.
So imagine like creating a fragrance ritual for yourself with intention, meaning like for your audience, like there's a beautiful, I don't know if there's a mastermind or like a class or a course or something that they're taking from a brand. If there's a way to connect a scent to that moment in time, they can always be brought back to that moment in time, to the intention or the promise or the commitment that they made to themselves during that moment. Yeah. And like, so for me, fragrance ritual is really bringing awareness to the connection between scent and memory, so that literally every time you could smell that item, it brings you back to the intention of when you were using it in the first place. And so like our holiday scent, like we will bring that scent back every single year, but just around holiday time, because I want that to spark the beautiful, cozy family memories.
Totally.
So every single one of our scents is something that meant something to me at some point in time, or reminded me of someone or something. And so that's what I'm hoping that people can now create their own memories with our products. And so we've got our 5 core scents, and then we do seasonal releases. We do a seasonal scent every quarter, and then we do these beautiful collaboration scents that just ground people in the beautiful people that we're doing the collaborations with, and the experiences that they bring to this world, because that's what's so important to us.
That's so cool.
It's so fun.
God, you're saying all this stuff. I'm like, yeah, you're right. I didn't even, but I want to go back to like the events transformation thing, because I completely agree to that. Like I have a scent that I would wear, and it's when I first got closer to God, and I wore it at this like weekend women's thing. Mm-hmm. And so every time I smell it, it's like I think of that connection.
Yeah.
You know, and with that being said, you know, when I reached out to you and we started talking about a collab, you know, my vision is when I bring people into my world, whether it's a boot camp, an event, I want them to take that home because they have an awakening. They're like, I'm going to transcend to that next level. I'm going to build that business. No, I'm actually worth it. Yeah. I know my it factor. I'm going to stop comparing myself to every other chick on Instagram that I'll never be. Like, you know, and I was so like, oh my gosh, how can I like lock this in? And we're going to do that.
And I'm so excited to do that with you.
Me too.
Because like how many events do you go to? Like these beautiful events that you are literally, you're just so like locked in these moments. And then you leave and it just kind of dissipates.
It dissipates.
It happens all the time to me. I go to these beautiful speaking events or masterminds or, you know, speaker series. And I'm like so pumped up when I'm in that room.
Yeah.
And then you leave and you just kind of get absorbed back into your day-to-days, you know, the to-do lists and all the things that you have to do. You may take a little bit with you, but it's not as impactful as it could be. And so I want to be the brand that helps other brands change that and like really creates like this beautiful impact that you can carry with you every single day.
It's so next level.
It's so fun.
It's so fun, so next level. I'm excited for us to work together
me too.
on
I am too.
a scent and release it to the world. And so now you have rollers, and then you have the spray.
Yeah, we've got rollable perfumes, we've got spray perfumes, and then we've got something called an everything spray. So our everything spray can literally be sprayed on everything. I put it in my husband puts it in his car every single day. We put it on our sheets, our home. It's also safe enough for your body. So literally everything. And then we're starting to kind of dive into the Bath & Body line. So creams and oils and bath salts, and we're going to be doing like, you know, loungewear and things like that. Like imagine immersing yourself in a super fancy hotel for one night. Like what is that beautiful experience that you would create for like the ultimate luxury self-care ritual for yourself? That's what I want you to experience through our brand.
Oh my gosh. That is so exciting.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Oh, you know, something dawned on me when you're speaking. The first time I like hit like a milestone in my first company, and I grew up in Minnesota, started my business sleeping on a mattress on the floor, like just didn't ever experience the luxury, right?
Yeah.
I remember the first time I got awarded like a trip to the Ritz-Carlton.
Yeah.
And I had never been to a place like that, in Laguna especially. And I remember walking in, it was like the scent. And it was like, wow, it smells so good.
Yeah.
And every time I walk into a Ritz now, it takes me back to the first time I experienced like the finer thing.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
It gives me goosebumps. I hear these stories all the time, and I think like, you just don't, like, how beautiful is that?
Yeah.
That you're reminded of that every single time you
It's
smell
so beautiful.
It is.
It's everything.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So great. Well, how important to you has learning about branding been? I love talking about branding. And second question to that is, we have your personal life and then your company. Like, do you try to keep them separate? Do you interweave them? Talk to me about that.
So branding is incredibly important. I knew when I launched my initial branding that it wasn't going to be the final branding. But when you are a new company, you're kind of balling on a budget, you know? You kind of have to like figure out how to, especially in the product space, like you need so much money just to create product alone. And so spending, you know, tens of thousands of dollars on branding and packaging and ads and influencers and all PR and all the different things that are thrown in your lap to kind of have to figure out was something that I put a little bit on the back burner because I just wanted to get product out there to test and learn, to hear what my customers' feedback was before I invested a lot of money into branding. I know that sounds backwards, but that was the way that we did it. We created a product that was so killer and beautiful, and I knew that people were going to be obsessed with it once they got their hands on it, but I also knew that we needed to upgrade our packaging and our branding at some point in time. We just couldn't afford to do it. We just couldn't. It was just so expensive. And I don't have investors. Everything is, you know, bootstrapped and funded 100% by me. And so we launched with just one packaging, like, so all of our scents were in the same package, and like we were stickering and labeling and all of the different things. And so I knew, I was just like, literally had been working with marketing and branding experts for 18 months before we just launched our rebrand in February, because I wanted to hear what customer feedback was. I also wanted to hear directly from retailers what their feedback was. I would go to Sephora, I would go to Saks Fifth Avenue, or Neiman Marcus, and like literally talk to the people in the fragrance and cosmetic area and say, like, what do you like about all of these different brands? Like, what's important to you as a salesperson that should be on our packaging for it, in order to allow you to sell our product easier. And so I spent a lot of time doing that kind of research to kind of hear directly on the, you know, the front lines, like how these salespeople, like, how can I help your job better to sell our product? And so I knew, but that, you know, it takes tens of thousands of dollars to be able to do new packaging. And so we intentionally just launched a rebrand with all new packaging in February of this year. And it completely up-leveled our entire brand. And I'm so excited about it. Branding is so important. I mean, there are brands out there that sell candles for $300 when I know that candle costs $2 to make.
Oh my God.
But they easily will do it because of the beautiful, beautiful branding. Right. And so branding is huge. Branding, yes, it's huge. It's huge. So it's something that you need to focus on. But for me, I really wanted customer feedback before I invested the money into doing so.
That's so smart.
Yeah.
You've really been good at building a community.
Yes.
Which is like, I think a lot of people are like, no, community is just like personal branding.
Oh no.
And it's fascinating to me how you've built that.
Yeah.
What are like some of the key tips of how you've built community?
I think for me, you asked about like personal brand versus like physical product or brand. I think it's important. I interweave them a little bit. And so like I always say, I'm the face of my brand 10 to 15%, but the product and the brand should stand on its own. But community is the number one thing that is the most important thing for branding or for any company to grow. And if you don't nurture that community and make every single one of your customers feel like they are the most important customer that you have, people may or may not come back to you. You know, your customer return rates are a huge, huge thing. And it's super important to nurture the people that are spending time with you at the very beginning when you're a little brand, all the way to when you're like a, you know, billion-dollar brand.
Yep.
And so I spent a ton of time like really going to markets and spending a ton of time at networking events and going out and meeting a whole bunch of different women and men who are doing the things that I dreamt. And so if I'm walking my days in full integrity, then I'm doing the right thing. No matter how fast or small my brand is growing and at what rate, I fully believe it's literally already written for me. And so I'm just here to walk that path in the most beautiful way that I possibly can. And if I can bring as many people along that journey with me, even like there's nothing more special to me than just like even just sitting down and having this conversation with you, getting to know you, getting to learn something about you. People are so fascinating. They're so fascinating. They really are. And life is so beautiful and fascinating and full if you just allow yourself to see that side of life versus the hard stuff. There's hard stuff in everybody's lives. It's a roller coaster. You have to know it's an up and down thing.
Hot mess express.
It's a hot mess express. Every other day something different's thrown at you. But I think if you can see it there's always something really beautiful on the other side of the hard. Life is just so much more beautiful when you think of that with an abundant versus a scarcity mindset.
Amen to that. Well said. Oh my gosh. What do you think your it factor is?
Oh, my it factor is my tenacity and my natural curiosity.
Oof. Yeah. I love it.
Nothing stops me.
Nothing stops you.
No.
What's your vision?
Oh, I have such huge vision for this company, and it's funny because like I think I know where I'm headed and what I want to do, but I don't. Like I said, like in my corporate world, I was somebody who had weekly sales plan, monthly, quarterly, 2-year, 3-year, 5-year, 10-year projections. And like, if I wasn't hitting all of those numbers, I was not winning and excelling at life. Okay. In this role, in my new world, I just let it all go. And I by allowing myself to release some of those expectations, the most beautiful opportunities and abundance has come into my life. And so I still have sales plans and I still have, 3 to 5 year plans, but people always ask like, what's next? And I don't know, I'm kind of letting go and letting God help me figure that out.
Oh, that's so beautifully said. And I almost just saw your whole transformation from previous to now. And I can so relate to it. And when I get asked that as well, I'm like, I'm just doing the best I can.
Yeah.
I'm serving.
Yes.
I'm serving at the highest level.
Yeah.
And how it's going to fall, how the book's going to come, when it's going to come, if it's going to come, I fully release that. As long as I do my best,
Exactly.
it's all going to work out.
Yes, it will, 100%.
Yeah. What has been one of your biggest lessons in business? Like
Probably that, like letting go. You know, always having standards, obviously, and making sure that you are adhering to those standards, but letting go of expectations, because the outcome that is actually in front of you is always going to be way bigger than the expectation that you set for yourself, because you can't see what God and universe, source, whatever you believe, has in store for you.
Right.
And to limit yourself by this one goal, I don't know, you kind of miss all the other stuff.
Limiting.
That's been my biggest lesson,
Yeah.
is like letting go, letting God kind of show me the path versus thinking that I'm writing my own path.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's going to direct your footsteps.
Yeah.
Like he totally will if you just let go versus force. That doesn't feel good at all.
It's not fun for anybody.
No.
Yeah.
Well, you're amazing.
Thank you.
I'm so excited to work with you
Yeah.
and go on this sensory journey. And we're going to be putting together my fragrance and taking you along the journey of how we do that. And really high level, how do we do that?
So the first thing I kind of do is sit down and just get to know somebody. Because typically once I get to know you, I can kind of feel like the different types of things that I think you're going to like. And then we sit down and we literally go through a whole bunch of different either fragrance notes that I have, or scents that I've actually already created that I think might be a beautiful fit for you. And we literally just test and learn and then make tweaks as we go until there's something that just feels so wholly aligned to you that like you will just know that that's it. All right, let's go. Let's create it together. Yeah. So it's testing and learning.
Yay.
Yeah, I'm excited to do that.
We're going to test and learn. Where can people follow you and find you?
People can find us in a couple different places. First is Instagram, of course. So Cayla Gray Co. It's CaylaGrayCo. And then our website is caylagray.com. So CaylaGray.com. And then we just joined TikTok. So we're testing a little bit of TikTok out there too. So that's Cayla Gray Co. as well.
Love it. And then if you are in Phoenix, go to her actual store.
Yes.
Yeah.
We just opened a storefront. It's in downtown Phoenix on 1st and Roosevelt. So come see us.
Well, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. This was a great time.